What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets and Rob. How is everybody doing? Before I get started talking about Escobar on the move and beyond the trade block, don't forget, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you're enjoying my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. All right, guys. So is Eduardo Escobar on the trade block? All indications is that he is one of the guys on this roster that the Mets are willing to trade to not only get another piece to put on this roster, particularly in the bullpen, but also to move that $9 million that Escobar is getting paid this year. And also it will leave a spot that if the Mets do sign Carlos Correa very, very shortly, that Brett Beatty will have the opportunity to not only be a backup third baseman to Carlos Correa, but get more of an opportunity to platoon with Mark Canha in left field. So Escobar getting traded adds a spot on the 40-man roster, and it also gives Brett Beatty the opportunity to excel in this lineup. And now Beatty isn't going to be necessarily the one that will be putting all the pressure on to do well when the Mets called him up in 2022 last year. I think it put a lot of pressure on him, bringing him up now with a more potent lineup. Brett Beatty could excel very much in this lineup. And I think the Eduardo Escobar possible trade could actually make Brett Beatty come up north after spring training in the 2023 season. And that's what we would have to look at right here. But what could the Mets get back for Eduardo Escobar? There's been some rumors that the Mets have been looking at a lot of bullpen to acquire, specifically either in a trade or in free agency. We all know about Andrew Chafin. We know about Michael Fulmer. We heard a little bit about Liam Hendriks and the White Sox. But there is a particular guy that I think the Mets can be looking at as a lefty reliever to add to this already very, very good bullpen. And with Eduardo Escobar, we're going to look at it right here. We're going to look at his contract. We're going to look how old he is. We're going to look at everything we need to look at with Eduardo Escobar and the player that he would be traded for. We'll look at his stats and everything else we need to look at with him and why it would be a good trade for both sides and why the Mets should trade Eduardo Escobar, even though I do think Eduardo Escobar, if the Mets do sign Carlos Correa, Eduardo Escobar definitely would be the perfect DH. Number one, he's a switch hitter. The Mets have failed 2 times last year with J.D. Davis and Dominic Smith in the first half. In the second half, it was Vogelback and Ruff. Platoons with lefties and righties do not work. It's failed twice in 1 year. It has been a debacle. We've got very, very little production from that DH spot last year, and it needs to change. And Vogelback and Ruff are not the answers. Escobar could be an answer at DH if the Mets decide to keep Eduardo Escobar at $9.5 million. But I think Escobar, if the Mets decide to keep him, would be perfectly suited for the DH spot. Even in a bad year last year, he still had 20 home runs. He got popping at bat. And if he just focuses on the hitting side of being on the Mets and not worried about his defensive problems or his situation that he might be in, because he had trouble last year, not only offensively, but also defensively, especially early on in the first half of the year. But if the Mets decide to trade Eduardo Escobar, what could you get from him? And I got the trade right here, guys, and this is what it looks like. The Mets would trade Eduardo Escobar to the Tigers for left-handed reliever Gregory Soto. This is a lefty that the Mets can add along with Raley in the bullpen for the New York Mets in 2023. And if you look at it here, Escobar, 34 years old. He's got a 2023 salary of $9.5 million with a 2024 club option at $9 million. And if the Mets don't pick up that option, they have a $500,000 buyout in 2024. So this is a tradable contract because it's his last year of his deal. The Tigers will get a third baseman that's pretty good, a veteran on the Tigers that are trying to be the up-and-coming team with their young players. Of course, They also got Javier Baez as well. And I do think this would be a nice trade for the Tigers. And the Mets obviously would get Gregory Soto, who had a 3.28 ERA last year in 64 games and 60 and a third innings. With 3 years left of control, his 2023 salary will be a little bit above $2 million at $2.18 million for next year. And the Mets would have 3 years of control. And you would say, why would the Tigers want to do this deal? Well, once again, with arbitration eligible players, which Gregory Soto will be, his salary would just increase year by year. And if he has more and more of a good year, that salary is going to go up no matter what happens with Escobar in a bad year or a good year. After that $9.5 million in 2023, it comes off the books for the Detroit Tigers. And the Tigers in expiring contracts is not an issue after this year in 2023. And I think that's why they would be willing to take on Eduardo Escobar's 1-year deal and trade Gregory Soto. So the Mets get the reliever. The Tigers get their third baseman. It's a win-win for both sides. Even if the Mets do have to pay a little bit of money in the Escobar contract, pay a couple of $1 million so it evens out money-wise, the Tigers get their veteran. Soto gets to the Mets. It will be a best case scenario for the Mets because they get that other lefty in the bullpen with Raley, and it actually rounds out their bullpen for the 2023. Maybe they'll do 1 or 2 other moves that are smaller, but they would have their entire bullpen ready to go for the 2023 season. And I believe with the bullpen, if they get Gregory Soto, I do think it is a much better bullpen than it was last year. And as much as people were bitching and moaning about the bullpen last year, the bullpen was actually not that bad, but I do think it would be even better in 2023 just by the additions the New York Mets made so far. Adding Gregory Soto with a 3.28 ERA is a good addition to have in that bullpen. So what could happen? Could you see this trade happen shortly? Could it happen very, very soon? Well, I do think with the Correa signing that looks like it's going to happen very soon, the Mets got to make room on the 40-man roster. There was also rumors and tweets about the Mets still looking at bullpen and actually looking at a 4th outfielder, and that's when Adam Duvall can actually pop in to this situation as well. So you also got to look into the 40-man roster. You got to remove somebody from the 40-man to add 1 or 2 players and maybe lose another player from the 40-man so you have enough people on the 40-man and be ready to go for spring training. But with Escobar, is it worth it to trade him away? Even when he had a bad year, he still had 20 home runs. I don't expect most people believe that Escobar is going to have a rough start to the season like he did last year. He never got going all year until the month of September, yet still hit 20 home runs. And we know what this team does not have. They don't have a lot of power. They lack power. And not saying that Correa is going to be the big bat power-wise, but he is going to be that run producer that you can put in the middle of the order. So Escobar could be expendable, especially if the Mets believe that Brett Baty is a guy that they can use at times to give Correa days off, put him at third base, and also platoon with Canna in left field. And I said this many times on many of my videos and many of my live streams. I think Brett Baty, from our top 5 prospects, are going to be the best overall hitter in terms of average, power, and RBIs. I think he's going to be the best. Yes, even better than Francisco Alvarez. I think Francisco Alvarez brings the power, but I'm not sure exactly what he brings average-wise. And I do think Brett Baty got all the intangibles to be a really good to possibly great player for the New York Mets. And you know what? As the number 2 prospect, let's get it started. Let's see what he can do. Give him the opportunity. If that means the Mets can get an addition in the bullpen for Escobar and even might have to pay a few $1 million to have that trade go down, I would do it. And one more time, let's look at the trade. Eduardo Escobar for Gregory Soto. Once again, he's getting paid $9.5 million this year with a club option for $9 million and a buyout in 2024 for $500,000. and Gregory Soto with a good year with 3.28 ERA, 64 games in 60 and a third innings, 3 years of control with a salary for 2023 a little bit above $2 million and will be arbitration eligible. So he's going to get a kickback of a couple more $1 million in the future. No doubt about that with the ARB eligible player. But again, the Mets can pay a few $1 million off Escobar and the money can be basically even. And the Tigers get their third baseman. The Mets get that other bullpen piece that they are missing. And I prefer a lefty, and that's why Gregory Soto is an option the Mets can look at. And they don't have to go another free agent route in Andrew Chafin, even though I really do like Andrew Chafin. But Gregory Soto is not that bad of an option either. He was a teammate of Chafin in Detroit last year. And I do think Soto with his 3.2 ERA is going to help this bullpen a lot. And that's where we are when it comes to the trade for Escobar and Gregory Soto. What do you guys think of this trade? Do you think this is a good trade, or do you want to keep Eduardo Escobar and just sign Andrew Chafin? Maybe the Mets have an option of getting Chafin and adding Gregory Soto. Who knows? But it seems very likely that the New York Mets can trade Eduardo Escobar and on his last year of his deal. And it could be a possibility that the Tigers could be looking at Eduardo Escobar and the Mets can be looking at Gregory Soto of the Detroit Tigers. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think of that trade. Would you do it? Yes or no? Or would you want to keep Escobar and sign Andrew Chafin? Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. Once again, guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. If you enjoy my content, want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. Let me know once again, guys, in the comments if you would do this deal, yes or no. Thank you guys for watching. And as always, Mets fans, let's go Mets.